Yeshayahu, Isaiah chapter 17. The message concerning Damascus. See, Damascus ceases to be a city and shall become a heap of ruins. The cities of Aroer are forsaken. They are for flocks which shall lie down with no one to frighten. And the stronghold shall cease from Ephraim, and the reign from Damascus, and the remnant of Aram be as the esteem of the sons of Israel, declares Yahweh of hosts. And in that day it shall be that the esteem of Jacob wanes, and the fatness of his flesh grows lean. And it shall be as when the harvester gathers the grain and reaps the heads with his arm, and it shall be as he who gathers the heads of grain in the valley of Rephaim, valley of giants. And gleaning grapes shall be left in it like the shaking of an olive tree. 2 or 3 olives at the top of the utmost branch, 4 or 5 in its most fruit-bearing branches, declares Yahweh Elohim of Israel. In that day man shall look to his Maker, and his eyes turn to the set-apart one of Israel, Yeshua, the Redeemer, Mashiach. And he shall not look to the slaughter places, the work of his hands. And he shall not see that which his own fingers made, nor the Asherim, nor the sun pillars, referred to as steeples today. In that day his strong cities become like a forsaken forest and an uppermost branch, which they left because the children of Israel, and it shall come to ruin. Because you have forgotten the Elohim of your deliverance, and have not remembered the rock of your stronghold. Therefore you shall plant pleasant plants and set out foreign seedlings. By day make your plant to grow, and in the morning make your seed to flourish. But the harvest is a heap in the day of grief and incurable pain. Woe to the uproar of many people who make a noise like the roar of the seas, and to the rushing of nations that make a rushing like the rushing of mighty waters. Nations rushing like the rushing of many waters. But he shall rebuke them, and they shall flee far away and be chased like the chaff of the mountains before the wind, like whirling dust before the whirlwind. At eventide, look, alarm, before morning there is no more. This is the portion of those who plunder us, and the lot of those who rob us. Woe to the land shadowed with whirring wings, which is beyond the rivers of Cush, which sends envoys by sea, even in vessels of reeds on the water, saying, Go, swift messengers, to a nation tall and smooth skin, to a people dreaded from their beginning onward, a nation mighty and trampling, whose land the rivers divide. All inhabitants of the world, and you that dwell on the earth, when a banner is lifted up on the mountains, look, and when a shofar is blown, hear. For thus Yahweh said to me, I am still, and I watch in my dwelling place like dazzling heat in the sunshine, like a cloud of dew in the heat of harvest. For before harvest, when the bud is perfect and the sour grape is ripening in the flower, then he, Yahweh, shall cut off the twigs with the pruning hooks, and shall cut down and take away the spreading branches. They are left together for the mountain birds of prey and for the beasts of the earth, and the birds of prey shall summer on them, and all the beasts of the earth shall winter on them. In that time a present shall be brought to Yahweh of hosts, from a people tall and smooth-skinned, and from a people awesome from their beginning onward, a nation mighty and trampling, whose land the rivers have divided, to the place of the name of Yahweh of hosts, to Mount Zion. The separation of the pruning with the pruning hooks, and the animals, the beasts will eat of them, and the birds of prey shall summer on them. It's very indicative of Revelation 19. Starting at verse 11. And I saw the heaven opened, and there was a white horse, and he who sat on him, Yeshua, was called trustworthy and true, and in righteousness he judges and makes war. And his eyes were as a flame of fire, and having on his head were many crowns, having a name that had been written, which no one had perceived except himself. And having been dressed in a robe dipped in blood, his name is called the Word of Yahweh. And the armies in the heaven, dressed in fine linen, white and clean, followed him, Yeshua, on white horses. And out of his mouth goes a sharp sword, that with it he should smite the nations. Clear differentiation here between the Father's people and everybody else. You want to be Israel, not the nations. And he shall shepherd them with a rod of iron. And he treads the winepress of the fierceness and wrath of El Shaddai, Father God. And on his robe and on his thigh he has a name written, King of kings and Lord of lords, Sovereign of sovereigns and Master of masters. And I saw one messenger, one angel, standing in the sun, and he cried with a loud voice, saying to all the birds, remember that fly in mid-heaven, saying, Come and gather together for the supper of the great Elohim, to eat the flesh of kings and the flesh of commanders and the flesh of strong ones and the flesh of horses and of those who sit on them and the flesh of all the people, free and slave, both small and great. And I saw the beast and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to fight him, Yeshua, who sat on the horse, and his army, Israel. And the beast was seized, and with him the false prophet who worked signs in his presence, by which he led astray those who received the mark of the beast and those who worshipped his image. The two were thrown alive into the lake of fire burning with sulfur. And the rest, the nations, were killed with the sword that came from the mouth of him, Yeshua, who sat on the horse. And all the birds were filled with their flesh. It's good to be Israel. Genesis 32. Read it. Shabbat Shalom.